All right. Why'd you say it like that? All right, here we go. Yeah, shout out to Liz. So let's do some more of this. So in mathematical relationships, we do things a certain way. Okay. So remember, your input value is the x value, your output value is your y value. And so in the real world, we're basically, and I'm going to throw some vocabulary terms, it's easy for us to look at two parameters and see if there's some sort of mathematical relationship. So in one of our last homework assignments, we did bivariant data. And parameters is a fancy word for variable, x and y, all right? So your age versus height, hours of study versus your test score. Human beings are just naturally curious, and we want to see if I change this one thing, will it have an impact on another thing? And so the best way to see is to collect data. And then that data can be modeled, we can graph it, and then we go, oh, that kind of looks like a linear function. Oh, that kind of looks like a quadratic function. And then we make equations, and then we say, well, if I want to get an A on the test, I need to study for 3 hours, because that's what the data says. So anyways, so it says determine if the relationship is a function or not. Well, if I look at this, I have 1, 5, and the 5 maps to 7 alone. I have 1, 10, and it maps to 0.6, it looks like. 15 maps to 15. 20 maps to 2. And 25 maps to 15. Now, it's true the y's repeat, but the only thing we look at when we're determining if something is a function is that the x's, I always say no repeating x's. I want you to write this down. Have you written it down before?
Yep.
Yes. The reason I want you to write it down is we need to hit that magic number of 27 times.
You know, what's funny is it didn't take us 27 times to remember that.
Well, let's see if you remember that in June when I give you a comprehensive final exam.
Yeah.
All right, be quiet. Don't get distracted. So, are there any repeating x's? No. So, what is this? Yes, this is a function. Okay, this is a function for sure. Now, earlier I asked you to read the book. It says since 15 is repeated output value, one input value is paired with two input is that valley? I can't read it. Values. If this occurs in a relationship, the relationship can still be a function. Now what they're saying is the y's can repeat, but the x's are not repeating. So now let's look at B. Remember, the input value is the x value, and the output value is the y value. Looky here. I have a 1, and I have a 1. Two 1s. So that is a repeating x. Not a function. Okay. So now let's do the reflection real quick. It says, what is true about the numbers in the first column of the table that represents a function? Why must this be true? So how would you guys word that? What would you guys say? Yes?
They're repeating x's. Well, repeating x's don't count as function. No.
Yeah, so you would say the textbook has like a very formal thing, but you could just say something like 4 functions. You guys should be writing this down. There are no repeating. That circle is throwing me off.
I put a capital in the middle of the sentence.
Yeah, I know that. Now, the opposite of that is true for if something is not a function, but most of the time these are going to be set up to where you got to determine if something's a function. So the first thing you do is you look at the input column or the input values, which are going to be the x's. If the x's repeat, not a function. If the x's don't repeat, it is a function. That's it. So let's move on to, yeah.
Oh, God, let's go.
Yeah, well, for this section. So now this one, basically the same thing. We're going to look at the input values, which are the x's, and the output values, which will be the y's. I've got a 53, a 24, a 32, a 27, a 45. So you're just going to say no repeating x's, right? We don't have any. No repeat. So it's a function. Over here, we have an input value, an output value. I have an 8 and an 8. X equals 8 repeats. Not a function. It could still be a mathematical relationship. It's just not a function. That's all. In other words, it could still be an equation. There'll be an x and a y and an equal sign and some numbers, but it's not a function. Okay? Any questions on that one?